Welcome back to the channel, guys, and welcome to what is possibly going to be the quickest DIY I've yet to do on my RS3. Today we're going to be installing an Iroz DSG Catch Can. So I will quickly explain during the install why we're actually replacing it, what's wrong with the factory unit, where you can get it, and how much you can expect to pay for it. So let's crack on with the video, the installation of the Iroz DSG Catch Can. Before we get started with the video, let's just take a second to appreciate my brand new Swiss Trax flooring that I've just installed in my garage. If you want to watch the installation video, there'll be a pop-out banner up here that you can click on. And make sure you do click on that because it could also save you some money if you're thinking about doing the same thing. So let's talk Iroz DSG Catch Cans. This is the unit right here. It's actually a fairly chunky looking unit, but it is beautiful. You've got beautiful hardware fixing the lid and this gorgeous laser cut emblem at the top here for the breather section. They also supply some brackets and screws in the same color, and these kind of affix it to the chassis. But all in all, this just screams quality. Unfortunately, that comes at a cost. This unit here, for Australian buyers, you're looking at around $660, which seems a lot, and there are cheaper options out there. Look, it's up to you. I guess you get what you pay for, and the way that the engine I've got, the engine bay layout that I've got with the integrated engineering intake, which is kind of a square design, I thought that this would suit quite well. As I mentioned before, Iroz also do an engine breather, which looks sort of similar but sits on the other side over here, and they do a bunch of other stuff as well. So why would we want to replace the factory unit? So there is an existing breather for the DSG gearbox in there. What's wrong with it? Well, let's crack the bonnet and I'll talk you through why you'd want to replace the factory one with something like this. So what's the problem with the factory DSG breather? Well, apart from being a bit flimsy, which doesn't really matter, these guys actually squirt.
That's what she said?
Yeah, you heard me right. They actually leak out the top. So under hard acceleration or hard launches, oil can escape from the top here, and guess where you find it? Right up here on the underside of the bonnet. So a bit of a flawed design, because obviously these cars are designed to launch hard with their launch control, and inflict a few G's around the racetrack and all that kind of stuff. So this is the guy that we're going to be replacing. So you might be asking yourself, Alex, why even bother doing a DIY video for something that's basically 2 bolts and a pipe that plugs in underneath? Well, look, I mean, this might not be for everyone, but if you're anything like me, I wanted to check the internet for instructions just to make sure I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's kind of a double check to make sure that you're installing it the way the manufacturer intended it to be. And lo and behold, I actually couldn't find anything. So I thought I would make my own. So yeah, it's very simple, but it's kind of your double check to make sure that you're installing it correctly. So let's quickly run through the kit and what is included and what tools you'll need to do the job. So we have, of course, the actual DSG Catch Can itself. We have a couple of brackets to attach that to the chassis, the fixing hardware, and also a little clip for the hose. Tools that you'll need, obviously an Allen wrench to suit the bolts, a T27 Torx bit, possibly a Stanley knife, and we might also need a heat gun to actually squeeze the pipe onto the fitting at the back here. Alright, to get things started, let's just do a bit of a test fit. So it's going to sit around about here. We've got these 2 brackets in place. This one, the straight one, sits on the bottom and is going to attach to the headlight fixing right there. And then this guy, I think, sits that way around and connects to the chassis point, or again another headlight attachment around about here. So for your information, that is the orientation of the brackets. So we'll get the small screws and we'll attach them here and here. So just use your Allen key to snug those down. That's one. That's two. Just give them a bit of a tighten up. Alright, so that is ready to go in. Okay, the next thing you want to do is actually remove the factory unit, which is this guy right here. And he literally just yanks off. You might just need a screwdriver to loosen that clip, and that just pops straight off like that. And you can actually see the pipe that leads to it, which we're going to attach to the new one. So we need to cut this off. So with your Stanley knife, just find the point where the factory, I guess, nozzle finishes, which is kind of around about there. You can see it kind of bulging out, and just cut right below that. We may need to use a heat gun to actually install the new one, but for now, we're actually just going to cut this guy off and try and make it as straight a cut as possible. So just gently working around. And there we go. That is the factory unit removed. You can see we've cut just below where the nozzle actually finishes. And before we go fixing the new catch can onto the actual pipe here, just remove this bolt here from your headlight fixings. And that's that T27 Torx bit, and this guy at the back here as well. Okay, now we're ready to put this pipe onto the new fitting of the Iroz DSG Catch Can. You actually get supplied with a hose clamp, which is this guy right here, which is basically a crimping clamp. So make sure that you put that over the pipe to start with so that it's ready to go. To get this onto the new nozzle, I'm actually going to use a heat gun to warm this up, and then we can squeeze it on to the new nozzle. Okay, that should be nice and soft. So remember, pop your hose clamp on first, get that in there, and then try and push the pipe into the new catch can. And there it goes, it slips straight into place. We'll just give that a bit of a twist, and we can see that that is going to fit really neatly right about there. Next thing we need to do is obviously tighten that hose clamp. Now, I'm not 100% sure what the best tool is to actually tighten one of these sort of crimping clamps. I've found that actually a set of wire cutters does the job. We're using the sharp edges to actually just crimp that clamp around the edge of the hose pipe. And there we go, that is nice and snug on the actual hose, and that's not going to go anywhere. Now it's just simply a case of putting in the supplied hardware to actually fix this to the chassis. And you may be asking, well, why can't we just use the factory ones, right? And put those down in place? Well, there's actually a very good reason. You'll notice that the hardware that you get supplied with, the washer is separate from the bolt, whereas the factory ones, the washer actually can't be removed from the bolt itself. And we want this washer to actually sit underneath these arms here. So that's why I use the ones that are supplied. Simply place the washer underneath, pop the supplied hardware through, grab your Allen key, loosely snug that down. We'll grab the other one, slide that underneath, pop the supplied bolt through, and snug that one down as well. And then just give them a slight torque up. They don't need to be super tight, just hand tight's fine. And there we go, and that is solid as a rock and not going anywhere. And you've got about, well, it's probably about 1 millimeter between your catch can and your air intake, depending on which type you have. But you can hear that that is not rubbing against that in any way. If you were concerned, I guess you could place a bit of foam, which I've done here as well, against the actual ECU between the DSG Catch Can and the air filter. But in my case, I don't think that's required. So there we go guys, as promised, a very quick 5-minute install of the Iroz DSG Catch Can in my Audi RS3. A big shout out to 999 Automotive for supplying, and of course Mr. Hank Iroz for developing it. This really super quick and simple install can be done by anyone in their garage at home. And I think for me, it's not just functional, but it helps dress up the engine bay. It looks really nice. Oh, and if you like the look of the rest of the engine bay and want to see an install of the integrated engineering carbon fiber intake and the engine cover and the fuse box cover and all that kind of stuff, there'll be a pop-out banner just up here that you can click on. Oh, and some of you may have noticed, yes, we have some Frac 77 t-shirts. Obviously the channel's a bit small for a merch drop just yet, but if you would like to wear a Frac 77 t-shirt that looks a little like this, let me know in the comments and I might do a bit of a bigger run of these and put them on the online shop. But that's it from me for the moment. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Of course, subscribe. Feel free to browse the channel and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.